This contempt report that is being considered today is chock full of misleading references to President Biden's age and his mental competency. And throughout this hearing today, I've heard the false allegation made that Special Counsel Hur found that Biden was incompetent to stand trial. That is not what Hur found. He simply questioned the president's memory. And so let's not get it twisted. And speaking of, cognitive impairment, the report that we're considering today conveniently omits serious evidence that the standard bearer for my friends on the other side of the aisle, Donald Trump, is the only candidate who shows any evidence of competency problems. Just this past weekend, in a speech in Wildwood, New Jersey, Mr. Trump bizarrely praised a fictional serial killer from Silence of the Lambs, the late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man, is what the president said. And congratulations, the late, great Hannibal Lecter. We have great people here that are being released into our country. We don't want our country. We don't want in our country. Hear it for yourself. Play the tape.
Silence of the Lambs. Has anyone ever seen The Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man, President Xi of China, talking about Beijing. Now, they've got ships circling, they have planes, but they never were doing anything. I could have pressed Hillary a lot harder. You know, she broke up her phone, she broke them up, she acid washing. Bit bleach, right? Bit bleach. Nobody even knows what it is. All done by Biden. Carried out by Ray. That's right. Jimmy Connors is Jimmy Connors is good. He's also happy. Congratulations, the late great Hannibal Lecter. We have people that are being released into our country that we don't want in our country. I'm up here screaming like a lunatic.
Ladies and gentlemen, that sad display took place just this past weekend with the former president. He appeared to confuse the Chinese city of Beijing with the self-governing island of Taiwan. He confused Jimmy Connors, a famous tennis player, with Jimmy Carter, the 39th president of the United States.
Would the gentleman yield?
No, I won't. This rant is not a singular event. Last January at a rally in Iowa, Mr. Trump incoherently stated, quote, "Think of it, magnets," end quote. And now all I know about magnets is this: give me a glass of water, let me drop it on the magnets, and that's the end of the magnets, end quote. During a series of March campaign rallies, Trump mistook the country of Argentina for a person, telling the crowd, quote, "You know Argentina, great guy. He's a big Trump guy. He loves Trump. I love him because he loves Trump. Anybody that loves me, I like them," end quote. He also claimed that a poll was a legislative bill, he called our country the United Stage, and he made a series of unintelligible noises when describing himself. Ding, boom, this is me, bing. It's not even clear if Trump knows which of his political opponents he's running against. Mr. Trump has mixed up President Joe Biden and former President Barack Obama on at least 8 different occasions. He bizarrely mixed up presidential candidate Nikki Haley with former Speaker Pelosi, inferring that Ambassador Haley was responsible for Capitol security. He can't keep straight the names of world leaders. In October of 2023, Mr. Trump referred to Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban as the, quote, great leader of Turkey, end quote. Republicans are intellectually and morally dishonest to criticize President Biden when their dear chosen leader, Donald Trump, presents with symptoms which are quite frankly scary. The American people can see through this Republican charade. This is just an ugly exercise to hurt President Joe Biden. Let's move on. And with that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
I just wonder if the gentleman from the other side of the aisle is concerned that the additional aid that was voted on to go to Taiwan would cause that island to tip over in any point in the future.
You know what? I hope that
I'll yield
that
to the-
island.
I'll yield
I
to the
hope that the island of Guam is floating on water and not on diesel fuel. That's the point I was making.
Well, this is,
And I think that the gentleman might question my mental acuity, but let's look at
I
your
would
dear
not.
leader. Let's look at your dear
reclaiming,
leader,
reclaiming my time.
Time belongs to
former
the gentleman
President
from
Trump. Let's look
reclaiming
at
Time
my
belongs
time.
to the gentleman from Kentucky.
Reclaiming my time. I have the utmost respect for my colleague on the other side of the aisle. The point I wanted to make is that sometimes we make statements tongue-in-cheek that we are metaphorically speaking, and that the president most certainly in most of those cases was doing that, as we all have, Republican and Democrat, made statements that if you're taken out of context, seem indefensible or ungrounded, if you will. Let me give an example. So the comment on the magnets here, if you give me a glass of water, let me drop it on the magnets at the end of the magnets. I've actually heard the former president, talk about that. And what he's talking about are electromagnets. So there was a discussion about whether the catapults on aircraft carriers should be steam-driven or electromagnetically driven. And it is true that steam is more reliable, that water would not affect the hoses, for instance, but salt water could affect wires that are driving electromagnets. So I think it's disingenuous here to offer this and take many things out of context, to take things that were said tongue-in-cheek, to take things that were said on the campaign trail, and act as if they were meant to be taken literally, because we all, on both sides of the aisle, have said things before that were not meant to be taken literally. And with that, I yield back.
The gentleman yield.
I'll yield, Chairman.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. I think the point is well made. No human beings ever said everything exactly right. We've all made mistakes, whatever. But the fundamental question in front of us is, was the decision not to prosecute consistent with the Department of Justice's commitment to impartial justice? That's the fundamental question. President Trump is getting prosecuted for a classified documents concern. Joe Biden isn't. Biden isn't because, this is what the special counsel said. He said, Mr. Biden's memory appeared to have significant limitations, both at the time he spoke to his monitor in 2017 and as evidenced by their recorded conversations, and today as evidenced by the recorded interview with our office. That's why we want the audio tape. President Trump is the department being impartial. President Trump is getting prosecuted. We know what's going on in Miami. President Biden isn't, and he isn't because of that statement from the special counsel. That statement from the special counsel in light of the facts of the case. The elements of the crime have been met. Mr. Hur sat right at that table and told us Joe Biden knowingly kept classified information and knowingly disclosed classified information. Special counsel told us in his report why Joe Biden did it. He said he had strong motivations to release classified information because he was writing a book for which he got paid $8 million. So we have motive, we have the elements of the crime, but he doesn't get charged, and yet President Trump does. And so this committee, the committee that oversees the Justice Department, has oversight of the Justice Department, wants to know if they are impartially administering justice. And the best way for us to figure all that out is to get all the evidence that the special counsel had at his disposal so we can figure that out and see if there's something we need to do legislatively to change the special counsel statute. But it's all part of our oversight. That's the fundamental question. We can get into things people say. I've said things that, taken out of context, Mr. Massie has, Mr. Johnson has, we've all said it. So that's not the point. The point is that fundamental question. Was it the administration of impartial justice? Were they being consistent? That's what we want to know. I yield back. Thank you, John, for yielding.
Yield the remainder of my time to Mr. Tiffany.
Yeah, and just to add on to the chairman's comments in regards to impartial, mean, if you go back to the Senate confirmation hearing for this Attorney General, he said, I'm going to conduct justice without fear or favor. And he's getting a chance now to live up to those words. Will he provide impartial justice without fear or favor to the American people? That's a question that's before us. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
The gentleman yield.
We're out of time. I can go to Mr. Ivey, and I'm sure he'll yield you some time. Or I'm not sure, but I would bet.
Let me go first, and I'll
Well,
give you
just
time if I get.
15 seconds.
All right, go ahead.
All right, thank the gentleman. The previous two speakers are concerned about me taking President Trump's comments out of context. This is exactly what they plan on doing if they can get their hands on this audio file. They want to take President Biden's comments out of context. So this is projecting. This is exactly what these Republicans are known for. They do it. That's what their big cheese does, Donald Trump. And with that, I'll yield back.